welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 214 for the 24th of November 2012. Richard Saunders here with you from a wonderfully, beautifully sunny Sydney, Australia. Summer is on the way. Might be time to go to the beach, I think. Might be time for a barbecue at least, anyway. On today's show, a man who I'd have a barbecue with anytime. Dr. Phil Plait, the Bad Astronomer. What a wonderful man Phil is. What a great advocate for science and reason. Phil Plait, the Bad Astronomer. His website, Bad Astronomy, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, has just moved location. Moved to another server. Phil Plait's here in a few moments to tell us all about that and other wonders of the universe. And following that, Maynard's back again. I don't think he ever really went away. Maynard catches up with Ross Blocher from the Oh No, Ross and Carrie podcast. And they have a very, very deep and meaningful discussion about colonic irrigation. Yes, they really get to the bottom of this one. Oh, he had to say it. That's coming up after our interview with Phil Plait. Maynard, back at TAM, back in Las Vegas, still giving the goods with the interviews. It's just amazing. But before all that, a couple of messages. Wow, it's finally here. It's finally here. In a couple of days, I'll be boarding that flight with Maynard, heading down to Melbourne to enjoy the Skeptics Convention. And I hear there are now some one-day tickets available. So if you just want to go for one day, you want to see James Randi or Rebecca Watson on the one day or some other people on the other day, or however it works out, you can get one-day tickets. Check it out, www.vicskeptics.wordpress.com. Be really quick now, as in right now, as soon as you hear me say this, run to your computer, grab up those tickets, snap up those dinner tickets as well. It's all happening. It's really exciting. And I'm really excited to say that, as I mentioned on last week's show, there's a possibility that there'd be a sort of an informal meet-up before the convention. Well, it's all happening. Yes, Maynard's No Agenda, Skeptic Zone, Dirty Disbeliever, Malaise. It's all happening on the night of the 28th of November. That's Wednesday this coming Wednesday, at 6:30 at the Penny Black. The Penny Black, which is at 420 Sydney Road, Brunswick. And you can check out more details about that on Facebook. I'll put a link on the Skeptic Zone page, or you can just Google Maynard's No Agenda, Skeptic Zone, Dirty Disbeliever, Malaise, or just turn up at the Penny Black, 420 Sydney Road in Brunswick, in Melbourne, and we'll get together. Fantastic, can't wait to meet you. Turn up, anybody can turn up. Maynard will be running around with his microphone. You can have a chat with me, have a chat with Maynard, and other great people who will be turning up, including Posty Lindley, our good friend Posty Lindley, and Steve Roberts from the Australian Skeptics, and lots of other people I can't even imagine. Melbourne people, I'll see you there. Now, I was a little bit saddened during the past week to hear that Larry Hagman has died. Larry Hagman from I Dream of Jeannie and Dallas, of course. Now, the reason I was a little bit sad to hear this was Maynard and I met Larry Hagman in 2011, just last year, at the Supernova Science Fiction Convention in Sydney. In fact, there's an interview. If you Google Maynard at Supernova and look down the list, you'll see a little picture of Maynard with Larry Hagman having an interview. A really nice guy in the brief moment I met him, and he didn't shake my hand because he had a sort of a thing about shaking hands, so he sort of touched fists. It was very nice. Sad to know Larry Hagman is no longer with us, but you can check out Maynard's interview with Larry Hagman, a little report I produced, if you search for Maynard at Supernova. And while you're on the internet looking at things on YouTube, check out Death Valley Gravity. Now, I know many of you have seen this before, but I'm quite amazed to see how many hits it's been getting lately. And it's also a little bit of source of revenue for Brian Dunning, the Skeptoid podcast, and the Skeptic Zone podcast. We're sort of splitting the profits. It's not a huge amount, but every little cent account. So if you want to check out Death Valley Gravity, Google that. Have a look at the video, pass it on to your friends, blog it, tweet it. Let's get more people looking. It only goes for about a minute. It's great fun, and a little bit of profit goes to help the Skeptic Zone and the Skeptoid podcast. And of course, my undying gratitude goes out to those people who subscribe to the Skeptic Zone. Less than $1 a week, and there's a link at www.skepticzone.tv. And some people even chip in by buying us drinks. Well, it's sort of giving us a little bit of a donation, but on the website it's called Buying Us a Drink, and I really do thank those people. It's those donations that make the Skeptic Zone possible. Well, that's enough for me. I'm going to run downstairs, open the fridge, and have another slice of the wonderful chocolate cake with pink icing my mother made for my niece's party just the other day. Mother's chocolate cake, folks, I tell you what. Why I do that and stack on the calories, I'll let you listen to The Skeptic Zone. And joining me now from the sun-drenched shores of beautiful Boulder, Colorado, is the Bad Astronomer, Dr. Phil Plait. Hi, Phil.
Hey, Richard. I don't know what atlas you're looking at. we kind of abut the mountains here. We're right up against the Rockies.
That's true. Well, maybe once upon a time it was the shoreline there somewhere. How is Boulder these days? I haven't been there for a few years.
It has been a while since you've been here. And in fact, this did used to be a shoreline. It's why we have so much sandstone here. This used to be underwater a long time ago. Everything here is great. In fact, if it's anything, it's too sunny. We are not getting much rain, and it's been very warm. It's November, and I know it's edging in towards summer where you guys are standing on your heads.
Yep.
But up here in the real hemisphere, it shouldn't be this warm. And I mean, it's like room temperature outside, and it should be really cold out right now, so it's crazy.
I see, but I know one thing for sure, that in your neck of the woods you get the most incredible skyscapes, if I may put it that way, with the most amazing thundercloud cells coming through occasionally.
I wish. Yeah, when you were here, it was amazing. You know, every afternoon the air blown over the mountains with moisture in it builds up, and you get huge thunderclouds blowing through here, and it's at sunset, so you get fantastic rainbows and orange clouds, and it's gorgeous. But not that there's any global warming, of course, but it's really messed up our weather here. This mountains don't even have snow on them right now. It's crazy.
Really?
So, so people are sitting here denying global warming, and I'm like, I look out my window and I kind of see it.
One of the things that struck me once when I flew into Denver, and I walked outside the airport to go to your car, in fact, and I looked up in the sky and I thought, whoa, look at that sky, those clouds, it's quite something.
Isn't that when we had those two mushroom clouds?
Yep.
Yeah, and they looked like nuclear bombs had gone off in Denver.
Yeah,
that was awesome for a second.
Now, of course, apart from staring at the clouds in Boulder, Colorado, you've been very busy lately, and you've got some big news about a movie you've done with the Bad Astronomy site.
Yeah, I've been crazy busy, and it's been fun. After 4.5 years of writing for Discover Magazine, I got an offer from Plait magazine, which is run by the Washington Post, which is a newspaper that's been around forever. I used to deliver the Washington Post when I was in high school.
Wow.
And and it's all online. There's no print version or anything like that. It is specifically an online entity. They have a handful of blogs, no science blog. They cover science, but not specifically. When it's news, they cover it. There's a lot of news and economics, politics, that sort of thing. But they wanted somebody to write more dedicated science, and they contacted me and made me an offer I really couldn't refuse.
Wow.
So I accepted, and it's been 9 days as I look at my calendar. It was on Monday, November 12th.
Uh-huh.
And it's been moving a blog is always a little bit, it's terrifying for one thing, but it's also, there are a lot of bumps in the road, and we're smoothing them out. It's to the point now where it's much, much easier than it was a week ago. just a learning curve.
Yeah.
But right now, I have 7,100 posts, and we had to copy that database over from Discover, and so we're still in the middle of doing that. It turns out it just simply takes a long time. It's not just, hey, grab them and move them over and up they go. No, it's actually, it's quite complicated. So hopefully those will be up soon, and once that's up, that's it. We'll be off and running.
I guess you're in the process. You're revisiting a lot of blog posts you wrote years ago.
Yeah, it's funny. I've written about everything. When you've written 7,000 blog posts, you've pretty much covered every topic in astronomy. And there's a handful I haven't. I've been thinking about covering those too. And it's so easy, especially when I was at Discover. It was just a matter of, search for what I wrote about, I don't know, solar flares, find the best one and link to it as an explanation. So that way I don't have to explain everything over and over again. Now it's a little bit tougher, but hopefully that will, like I said, that'll smooth out over the next couple of weeks. But as it is, I'm off and running. I'm writing. I've already written a couple of political posts that have gotten hate mail, which is awesome.
Good.
And there's some vaccine stuff coming up, some global warming stuff coming up. So besides the usual astronomy and gorgeous pictures and space news and all that, nothing will have changed. My voice is still the same. I'm still posting the same sort of thing. I posted Doctor Who stuff the other day. So I had a couple of emails from people really worried I was going to be, towing some sort of party line. It's no, why would you even think that? I wouldn't accept a job where they made me talk about different things or things I didn't want to do. So I'm pretty happy.
Now, I think you've probably come in for some comment or criticism in the past because for an astronomy site, which is primarily what it is, which is really great, you do dip your toe into skepticism, which is natural enough given your background, and especially your promotion of the good cause, which is vaccination, and your fight against the anti-vaxxers. Has that caused you much trouble over the years that people really can't get the fact that you're pro-vaccination?
Well, for a sufficient definition of trouble, I mean, when you write about anything where there's a controversy, you're going to get a lot of noise in the comment section, for example, as well as email and on the social networks where people make fun of you. And it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter if you're pro or anti-vax, a climate change denier, or climate change acceptor, I suppose would be the word. Take any issue where there are, quote-unquote, two sides, a real side and a fantasy side, if you wish. And you're just going to get hate mail no matter what you say. So I decided long ago, if I'm going to get hate mail and if I'm going to get people yelling at me, I'm going to do it for the right reasons. So writing about vaccinations is something I do because it's important and it saves lives. So you can deny the benefits of vaccination all you want. You can say they are related to autism, they have toxins in them, all this ridiculous stuff that's just totally made up and wrong. But you're wrong, and I'm going to call you on it. And you can go into my comments and yell at me, but be prepared to have your head handed to you with facts when it's all done. So it's not trouble. It's not like anybody said, we're not going to invite you to our party because you vaccinated your kid or anything like that. And in fact, the support you get from people who are fighting the good fight all by itself is worth the trouble. But of course, what's really worth the trouble is doing this on its own merits. Getting people to talk to their doctors about vaccination, getting people to understand about the forces of anti-reality in government and religion and all of these other places is critical. And doing that is why I do it.
That's fantastic. And I've just been looking at your new, well, I guess you could say it's a new site. It's a new look for your site. And it is a new look indeed. It's somewhat, it's almost like it's been made aerodynamic, Phil.
It's a different layout. If I had one complaint, it would be that the content in the middle of the blog, the content column is a little bit narrower, but it's such a small percentage, it hardly matters. And it's easy enough to click a picture and make it big. So that's not a big deal. And if that's my only complaint, come on. So it's nice. It's a little bit more minimalistic and easier to read. And I think they're very supportive, and it's just great to be in a new community. Sometimes you need to shake things up a little bit to knock yourself out of a rut. I mean, it's not that I was in a rut, but it's just that, wow, I'm just really talking myself into a corner here. Everything was terrible and I sucked. No, it's not like that. It's just every now and again you need to shake yourself a little bit to achieve more and to try different things. That's what I've done here, I think, and we'll see how this goes.
And one of the things that impressed me, it always impresses me to visit Bad Astronomy, of course, there's always something interesting to see there, but this video, which is currently on your front page, and I suspect it'll be there by the time this interview goes out, is quite hypnotic. It's quite hypnotic. Moon phases for 2013. Every phase of the moon in one video. That's something else.
At NASA, the Goddard Space Flight Center is a research center with NASA. I used to work there, actually. They have a visualization studio where they put together images and videos. And what they did, and this is phenomenal, they took imagery from two different missions. The Clementine mission, which was in the 1990s, a joint NASA military mission, and the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is still orbiting the moon and taking phenomenal data. And they took images from those two missions and combined them with altimeter data. This Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has a laser altimeter. It shoots down little pulses of laser light and times how long it takes them to go down and come back. And that way it can basically measure the elevation of features below it, mountains, craters, whatever. And they put these two things together, and using the elevation data, they can create realistic shadows on the images. So if there's a mountain in the image and they know where it is, they know how tall it is, they can add a shadow to it. So knowing where the sun's position is, you can accurately recreate what the landscape, the moonscape, is. So what they did, knowing the Earth, Moon, Sun geometry, is they calculated it every hour, 24 hours a day, for 365 days for 2013, and then calculated what the moon would look like, its phase, the shadows, and also, because the moon's orbit is elliptical and tilted, we actually see a little bit more than half.
Yeah.
And it sort of, we see a little bit past one side and the other side, and it tips and nods. And as you watch this video, you can see that motion. The moon is sort of coming towards you and moving away and tipping and panning. It's really, really cool. So I added some music to it and explained a little bit about what you were seeing. They did this last year, too, for 2012. And it's fascinating to watch it. It's just like 4.5 minutes of
it really is.
There's just something about it.
Yeah. And what I've done is I've hit the button on the YouTube there, which makes it go full screen, and you can see all the data. And in fact, I'll just do it again while we're speaking. There we go. Now it's on my full screen, and I can see the time and the phase and the diameter, the distance, position. It goes on, and of course, then you can go scroll straight to your birthday and see exactly how the moon will look on that day.
Right. And there's a link to the NASA website where this is all hosted. You can download a much higher resolution version if you want. And also there's a picture at the top of that webpage of the phase of the moon that will be updated in real time starting January 1st. Right now it's got a waxing gibbous moon, I believe. I'd have to look at it again. It might be waning, but it's a gibbous moon. And it's for January 1st at midnight, UTC, for Greenwich time. But it will be updated every hour. So when you go to the page, it will show you the current phase of the moon, which is pretty cool.
And in stunning detail. I'm just looking at that picture right now. Well, of course, let's talk about space and stars and things for a moment. And one of the reasons that I certainly first became aware of you when you wrote your book, Bad Astronomy. And I think it's interesting how these things come around, because right now we're heading headlong into the end of the world, of course, in December this year, December 2012. But one thing I must say that surprises me, Phil, I thought by now there would be a lot more hoopla about it. But you know what? You really don't hear much about the end of the world or mysterious planets heading our way. Although I did meet a man the other day who said there was a mysterious planet heading our way. Are there any mysterious planets, new ones, Phil, that we should be looking out for?
Well, let me phrase this carefully. There are made-up nonsense ones that don't exist. And then there are real planets orbiting other stars that we're seeing, which is awesome. So, as far as the quote-unquote Mayan apocalypse on December 21st, that's all nonsense. You're right. It's kind of funny. I'm not seeing it as much as I thought I would right now. I'm not getting the emails every day. I'm not seeing it all over the web. When I am seeing it, people are making fun of it. It's a line in a TV show, or somebody's using it as in an ad, and that's about it. I was expecting it to be much more popular, which is great. It's nice to see that this is not getting the traction I thought. I wish it weren't getting any. I do know some astronomers who are getting emails all the time from people who are scared, usually kids.
Yeah.
I get those too, just not as often as I thought. So it is kind of nice that that's not happening. And one of the things, this is all based on the fact, you know what, let me back up a little bit. What it's all based on is not a fact. It's based on a gross misinterpretation of Mayan calendar. It's the idea that the Mayan calendar ends on December 21st, 2012, and that's nonsense. Just like we do, they have cycles to their calendar. They had something like a week, something like a year, 360 days, and they had bigger units, and one of them is about 400 years, and that one does apparently end on December 21st of this year. But what's going to happen is the same thing that happens every time a cycle ends. It goes back to 0, the next cycle ticks up by 1, and you start over again. So there's nothing about the calendar. The Mayans themselves had no mythologies about the end of the world. This is totally made up from scratch. But a lot of people have been sort of pushing astronomical events as some sort of doomsday thing that the Mayans could have predicted, like an asteroid impact, solar flares, a gigantic planet on its way to the Earth. And the thing is, Mayans didn't have telescopes, so they couldn't have known about any of this stuff anyway. And the fact of the matter is, any planet that would be headed towards the Earth that would be here in time to do anything to us by December 21st would be brighter than the full moon in the sky right now. Jupiter is hundreds of millions of miles away, and it's one of the brightest objects in the sky. So if there were something 2 million miles away, it would be intensely bright, and there's nothing there. So that's all just nonsense.
Yeah, I think we would have noticed it by now. But I'm glad, too, that this hasn't caused the big stir that... Maybe we can thank someone like Harold Camping, who, was it last year or the year before, was making all that hoopla about the end of the world, which didn't come. And maybe it's like the boy who cried wolf. Maybe finally people are just sick of hearing about the end of the world.
Maybe. That would be nice, I guess. I wouldn't put too much faith in that idea, though. This is not the first end of the world, and I don't think it's going to be the last. We see this over and over again. In fact, in 2003, there was this idea that got widespread coverage for reasons bizarre. I have no idea. But there was a giant planet on its way to Earth, Nibiru, and this was actually, back in 2003, the third time something like this had come up, and it was shown not to happen. Of course, we're still here, and it got recycled for 2012. So, who knows what's going to happen in 2014, 2020, I don't know. Somebody will come up with something. There's a comet that's going to pass by the Earth next year. People are already saying that that's going to hit us, and it's not. It's not even going to come within 10 million kilometers of the Earth. So it's head banging against the wall constantly for people like me trying to debunk this stuff.
It is. But again, it's interesting that people like you are keeping score, so to speak, because that's about the time I first got to know you, was in about 2003, when all this was going on, and of course with the book Bad Astronomy, and subsequently you wrote that great book, of course, Death from the Skies, which really does talk about the end of the world.
Yeah, thanks for the plug. I got so tired of doomsday scenarios and people making stuff up, I decided to write about the real ways astronomical events could destroy the Earth. And the whole point of the book is that the two most likely ones, which would be an asteroid impact or a huge solar storm, which, by the way, the latter cannot destroy the Earth, but it can damage our technology, wipe out satellites and cause blackouts. Both of those are, if not preventable, at least they are something we can mitigate by launching rockets to push asteroids out of the way, or protect our satellites and our power grid from big solar flares so that they don't hurt us. Everything else is just so low statistics. A black hole passing by the Earth or a nearby supernova, there's basically zero chance of them happening. So it's kind of fun to talk about them. The point being that, realistically speaking, they're not anything we have to worry about. Yes,
I agree. And it's a good way, I've found to, when I'm talking to students, and they say, do you think the world's going to end in this year? Earlier in the year, they were asking me this. And I said, well, no. And then I asked them, how do you think that could possibly happen? And of course, and fair enough, they're still, finding their feet. They hadn't got that far as to actually think how the world could possibly end. But it's a nice catchphrase, isn't it? The world's going to end.
Right. And it turns out it's hard to do.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about wiping out life on Earth, that's not easy, but it can be done with a large enough, asteroid impact or something like that. But actually destroying a planet is really hard. It turns out the Earth has a lot of gravity. And even taking the moon and smacking it into the Earth, that would wipe out all life, but the planet itself would survive. So even the phrase end of the world or destroying the Earth or whatever is a little vague.
It is.
And even then, it's like, well, maybe it wipes out humans, which would suck. I don't want that to happen. But even destroying life on this planet would be really hard to do. So in a sense, at least, that's kind of uplifting. Yay, all the animals are dead, but 30 million years, you'd never know.
Yeah, that's
everything
right.
will evolve again.
There'll be another odd group of creatures evolve probably in the time that this planet certainly has to go to carry on. Now, before we wrap it up, Phil, let's turn our gaze away from mysterious planets and back to real ones. I'm sure you've been excited, as I have, and I'm sure our listeners have too, with all the wonderful information and images coming back from Curiosity.
Oh, yeah. It's been fantastic. That's been a culmination of, oh my gosh, close to 35 years of sending probes to Mars. And it's the largest and most sophisticated probe ever to land on Mars, and certainly of the rovers, it's the most functional. And it's just incredibly capable. It takes high-resolution pictures. It has a chemistry set on it, so to speak, so that it can actually sample the soil and see what's in it. It's got that really way cool laser that it can zap rocks with and makes them... Sorry?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Oh. I love watching the images coming back from... This is where we've just shot the laser. That's fantastic.
It's a very powerful laser. It only shoots for a tiny, tiny fraction of a second, but it vaporizes the rock. The rock glows, and the specific colors, you break that glow up into its colors, like a rainbow, except much more detailed, and you can actually determine what elements are in it. So silicon, oxygen, carbon, all of those things can be seen in the rocks. They can sample them that way. So it's an amazing thing that it's doing, and it's landed in this gigantic crater, Gale Crater, which is close to 100 kilometers across. And that's cool because when the asteroid impact hit there, billions of years ago, it basically exposed all these layers of Martian history. So it doesn't have to dig very far. It can just rove over this landscape. It's kind of like walking down into a canyon. It's all the work is done for you. So it's learning a huge amount about Mars, and of course the pictures have been fantastic.
The pictures are fantastic. There's one on your website now, which I'm looking at, and there's even a little alien in there.
Yeah, as we're recording this, yesterday a media organization interviewed one of the scientists, the project scientist actually, for Curiosity, and he said they found something that's really exciting. And, of course, everybody's speculating about what it is. People are saying, it's life, it's organics, it's this, it's that. It's like, we don't know what it is. And he won't even say. So I'm guessing it's something scientifically very interesting.
Yeah.
They need to wait to confirm it, and then they'll announce it. I don't think it's aliens. We don't even know if it's biology. They could have found evidence of warm water standing in this place 2 billion years ago. It could be some interesting geology. We don't even know what field of science he's talking about. So speculating on what they found, which is, of course, what everybody's doing, I think is just a little bit premature.
Oh, well, but it's a lot of fun to wonder.
Oh, yeah, I'm wondering, too. But, I'm not going to go out and write a big newspaper article or whatever online saying, we think it's organics. And it's like, you don't know crap. You don't know what you're talking. You could be anything. Come on. So we've been through this before. NASA's sometimes will make we'll have an announcement in a few days, and they'll put out a press release to journalists saying, we're going to announce something that has impact on the field of astrobiology. And then everybody thinks aliens. And it's like, really? You really think that's how NASA would announce this? So speculation is going to run no matter what you do. Hopefully, when this comes out, it will still be pretty interesting. I think it will be. Everything Curiosity is finding on Mars is interesting. It's on Mars.
Yes. That's absolutely right. It's hard to go wrong when you're getting back these wonderful photographs. They are absolutely stunning, the high detail of them. And that video that was produced of the Curiosity landing on Mars is something I use in my talks. It's just breathtaking.
I've used that as well, the 7 Minutes of Terror talk.
Well, there's
video.
that, and there's the actual images that the Curiosity was taking as it was making its way down on the parachute.
Right, it had cameras pointing down. You can see the heat shield flying away and the parachutes, and then as it lands, and that had been remixed a bunch of times. People kept making better and better videos, doing interpolation between frames to make it smoother with the high-def pictures. And so the final videos that are out there now are if you haven't seen them, folks, you can find them easily. They're on my blog, and they're stunning. Really something to look at.
It is, because when I've been showing these, especially to students, I can tell them point blank, this is not a Hollywood special effects. This isn't done in computers. It's not CGI, although it's computer assisted. One could say it's an actual movie of a real spaceship landing on another planet. And even every time I see it, my heart skips a beat. I think it's just astounding. Yeah,
and you know how spoiled we are now. I remember Voyager going past the outer giant planets, and you have to wait and wait and wait for that data to come back. Line by line, it was writing stuff. And we didn't have the internet. It was just being covered by the news, if they covered it. And even then, typically, it was the magazines that could print the color pictures, where so you'd be waiting 2 months. Voyager had passed Neptune or something like that, and then it was a long time later before we even saw the images. Now we're getting what's essentially video from other planets in color, in high definition, if not within days, if not even more quickly than that. It's astonishing.
Wasn't it an episode of Cosmos with Carl Sagan where he was probably at NASA somewhere by a machine that was producing an image, and he was saying, this is coming through right now as we're filming, and I think it was from one of the Voyagers.
The timing for that would have been about right. Yeah, late 70s, early 80s, that's when Cosmos was done. Late 70s, I think. Late 70s. Yeah, that'd be about right.
To see the first close-up images of a world never before known, this moment is one of the greatest joys in the life of a planetary scientist. In the early morning hours of July 9th, 1979, on the real-time television monitors at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, we began to learn about a world called Europa.
Finally, the end product of this remarkable set of links and relays is a hard copy which comes out of this machine showing, in this case, the wonders of Europa, which were recorded for the first time in human history today. It is absolutely astonishing.
That's exciting stuff. Now, before we wrap it up, Phil, if people can't wait to visit your new site, and I hope they have done already, but if they haven't, is the URL still the same, or should they make a new bookmark?
Well, you should make a new bookmark. It's just slate.com, SLATE, like the blue-black sedimentary rock. It is sedimentary, isn't it? It's not metamorphic? Oh, my gosh. I'm not a geologist.
We're going to get emails now. Okay.
Just go to slate.com, and you'll see the link for blogs. Mine's there. The old website, badastronomy.com, is still up. And that's where I am. And I'm on Twitter at Bad Astronomer and Google Plus and Facebook and all the usual haunts that socially media-savvy people waste their time on.
That's right. So there it is, folks. Go to www.slate.com. Follow the links to Bad Astronomy. I think you'll agree with me. It looks slick. It looks fast. It's more like a newspaper sort of look, but all the information that you know and love from Bad Astronomy and Phil Plait is all still there. Phil, wonderful to talk with you again. I'm going to try and rally myself in 2013 to visit Boulder and just gawk up at the sky in wonderment and amazement and maybe see a comet or two. But until then, it's wonderful to catch up with you, and thanks very much for being on the Skeptic Zone.
Thanks, Richard.
The Skeptic Magazine, the journal from Australian skeptics. Subscribe online to the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. Visit www.skeptics.com.au and click the publications link. You can also find there over 30 years of back issues free to download. The Skeptic, the magazine from Australian skeptics.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Well, you know, there's a lot of podcasts out there, and when I listen to things in my ear very closely with earbuds, I want to hear about people's bowels. And we're about to talk to a man right now who's been doing a lot of poo work lately. Who have we got here?
Oh, boy. This is Ross Blocher of Oh No, Ross and Carrie. And boy, do we deliver on the bowel movements, if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've been going to places that we wouldn't normally go to, but I actually have had a colonic irrigation twice.
Oh, hey, all right, we're part of the same club then. Only once here.
Wow, okay, yeah, well, because I went back again because the first time it didn't do anything. Surprise. And they went, oh, maybe you have to have a couple of times before you realise what might happen. It might just be a bit of a spring in your step that will improve or something. I thought, that's a bit vague.
Well, I was going to say, if that's your yardstick, you know, it doing something, you might be going for the rest of your life. I mean, certainly it's doing something. They're putting water into your colon.
Yeah. And look, I had the fancy one. I was lying down, and it was a lovely room. It was a very medical kind of grade, sort of looking nicely scented, all that sort of stuff. But what did you have, like a shovel and a pint of water or something? What was...
Well, you know, they had this plastic bed, and it was kind of this curved shape, and so there's padding for your head, and there's kind of, I don't know, almost like plastic stirrups for your feet, and this gully that runs under your butt to collect everything. Can I say butt on this?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And so could you see what was coming out of you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Mine couldn't. I was lying down, you see. I couldn't see it.
But did they give you like a clear plastic tube so you could...
No, at no stage did I see what was going on whatsoever.
Oh, they gave me a full viewing gallery. They really wanted to make sure I could see everything coming out of me. So yeah, I'm lying down horizontally, and this tube is running parallel to me, essentially, and I can watch it. And
that would have to be disturbing.
Oh, indeed. I mean, I'm under no illusions about what's inside of me, so, you know, I suppose I'm a realist enough not to be grossed out by it. But the best part was they had this poster right in front of me that said all these little inspirational phrases like, be happy, try new things, you know, experiment.
I poop, therefore I am, that kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Inspirational phrases. Make every moment count was the last one. And I thought, okay, I guess that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're going, yeah, so why am I here? If that's the case, why am I doing this? If every moment's counting, why am I lying here pooping?
Right. So I got to insert the tube myself.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. See, they did that for me at mine.
Oh, they did offer if I, was having a difficult time. Yeah, the woman helping us did check under the, I had this discreet white towel, and so she checked under it to make sure it was inserted properly. Yes, apparently it was. And and then the water started. And there were 3 pressure levels. There's the low, medium, and high. I started.
And there's also the Alec Baldwin level as well, but that's only reserved for him.
Right, indeed. Yeah, that was prohibited and covered in red tape.
And tell me, what were they promising? What did they promise you? What was their big claim that you would definitely get out of this?
Sure. Well, there's the weight loss aspect of it, and then there's detoxification, and that's really the extraordinary claim that we're going for. Then again, that as a weight loss method, I would say, is also spurious, because certainly, when you flush a bunch of stuff out of your innards, you're losing weight because that's weight, that's material. But other than that, I don't see it as a dietary plan, and I don't think medical science would back that up. But the main claim there was that it detoxifies, that somehow it's removing something that the body is not removing on its own, and that the substance is dangerous to you. And that is the part that there's no empirical claims to demonstrate. And we even asked. We had this woman helping us, and we said, so what are these toxins? And at first she said, well, if you smoke or you drink, those are the sort of bad things that build up. I said, oh, well, I don't smoke. I rarely drink. She said, a lot of eating meat, and I said, well, I don't eat too much meat, and she said, well, there's other toxins. We said, well, what are those? What are they made out of? What do they look like? And she kind of paused a little awkwardly for a second and said, I know there's an answer to this, but I can't really remember. I'll have to look that up for you.
Have you ever secretly recorded audio with some of these encounters you've had? I guess you probably could, but I guess it's maybe unethical and illegal.
Official answer, no, wink. We have at times recorded audio for our own reference purposes.
Because you'd be tempted, because some of the stuff is people are going to go, no, they didn't really say that.
Right. Yeah, certainly there are laws in each state, really. It's on a per-state basis about what you can do in the U.S. in terms of recording a conversation. We do take photos, we'll get that kind of reference just to prove, as you say, that we were actually there and doing what we say.
Look, when I went to have my colonic irrigation, there was a bit of urban folklore going around, and even the people didn't claim this themselves that were doing it, in that all the recreational drugs you've had over the years are sort of in your colon there somewhere. And if you flush them all out, you get this effect of it coming on again.
Interesting.
Never happened.
Okay.
Never happened, and I can't imagine how it would, because if you had all them in your colon, that means all the medicine you've taken all over these years would also be there, so you'd get another hit of antibiotics, or what? You know what? Yeah, no.
Indeed, right, yeah. There would be a lot of, conclusions to draw from that, but, yeah, I don't see any of them playing out. Yeah, that's interesting. She hadn't mentioned anything like that.
Well, I guess they couldn't officially say, hey, you'll get a drug high from all the stuff you used to have again. Even that would be a bit much, even for people who make spurious claims.
No, instead they warned that I may have the urge to vomit, which I did almost feel there.
Wow.
And after a while, I did go up to the medium strength of the water, but I think that was about as much as I could handle. And this came with a massage as well. So,
really?
Yes, this young lady offered to give me a massage, and I'm wearing only a towel on my lower half, and so she's massaging my belly, and she's kind of lathered up her hands with something, and it was a good, 7
It'd have to be right up there with one of the strangest things you've ever done, Ross, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yes. But you've done it too, so you know.
I know. Oh, yeah, it is really odd. It's not something I'd recommend. I mean...
No. Well, the whole motto of our podcast is we show up so you don't have to.
So where do you go to from here? But you've done the Mormon thing, you've done the colonic irrigation, the weird diet stuff. What's next?
Oh, well, there's no shortage, certainly, of religions that go door to door, or, dangerous cults or secret societies. Alternative medicine practices. There's a lot of stuff out there for us to do. So we certainly have no shortage. We've actually plotted out a list of things that we'd like to do, and that could carry us on for a good 6 years plus.
Wow. What do you think is the biggest challenge to the skeptic movement? I always think part of the challenge is explaining what it is to people half the time, because a lot of people skeptic, it doesn't really mean a lot to most people.
Well, I think the biggest challenge is just to impart these ways of thinking to everybody else. That's really what we're trying to do, give them tools to critically evaluate and just kind of save themselves from a lot of inconvenience and wasted money and imperiled health. The skeptical thinking is, just takes away a lot of bad and overly simplistic solutions to life and leaves you with life, which is difficult enough on its own. And so hopefully, it's just spreading the message. I think that's the most difficult thing, and we've got to find ways to do it however we can.
You see, you're challenging people to think, and that often isn't much fun, really.
I beg to differ. I think it's plenty fun to think.
Oh, but it is much easier if someone says, here's the thing that's going to do it all for you, like all you do is get the bowel cleansing. Done. No more dieting, no more exercise, just go get your poo washed out.
Yeah, there's certainly an appeal to easy answers, and I think that's why a lot of people go for a lot of these things. Oh, I want to lose weight, but I want to do it quickly. I don't want to have to, eat healthy and work out constantly. And, I want to feel loved and feel like I have purpose in life, but, geez, I don't want to have to, find it on my own. I want someone to just kind of hand it to me.
I'm actually wearing my Spanx today. These wonderful Spanx things that give you the Shatner gut. They pull you in there. And I think it's a nice bit of woo.
Okay. So you do the same kind of investigations we do, clearly.
Yep. I'm wearing it there for no apparent reason. Now, where can we find your podcast? And do you have a bit of a forum where you go back and forth with people?
Well, the website is onopodcast.com. That's OHNO podcast.com. And then we have a Facebook presence at facebook.com/onrac, ONRAC. And that is where we're really involved. We do a lot of back and forth. And so we encourage people to come there, like us, see extra comments, videos, pictures.
And who are the most feisty people you've taken on so far? Who are the people that keep coming back on Facebook and going, you guys misrepresented us? That's the noise they make as they're typing.
Yeah, I don't know if we've so much had that as we've had, certainly I'd say the Raelians would be the feistiest. That was a UFO cult that we joined.
Look, they have a great float in the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras every year. Fantastic float. Great-looking bunch.
Yeah, and great-looking bunch. They take care of themselves, very friendly when you meet them, and they advance a lot of great social issues, and so we applaud a lot of that, but it's based on this, quite fantastical theoretical explanation of how life was seeded on the planet by aliens from another planet. And so after we recorded our podcasts, 2 of them on that subject, they sent us a cease and desist notice, upset that we'd mentioned a few things that they didn't want talked about. So I would then classify them as the feistiest.
Okay, well, I'm sure you've got a few battles ahead of you yet.
Indeed. We'll take them as they come, but we're not worried. We're having a good time.
Now, you're going to bring your show down to Australia sometime?
Oh, I would love to. Absolutely. I'm sure there's all kinds of woo down there.
G'day. I'm Steve. You can call me Steve. I don't know how things are down under, but here in North America, science is falling off the radar. If you're a skeptic, and I assume you are if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably as saddened as I am to see logic and reason swept aside by mindless drivel. I'm going to step up and try to change that. I've decided to become the next Bill Nye or Carl Sagan, and I've started an Indiegogo campaign to fund a series of YouTube videos called Science Isn't Scary. You can check out our site at scienceisn'tscary.webs.com. You can look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and Indiegogo.com, or you can contact us directly at scienceisnotscary, all one word, at gmail.com. Chip in or just spread the word and help get science back into the public eye.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Well, that's it. Let me see. Trousers. Yeah. Papers, I'm going to need those. What's this? iPad case and spare glasses. It's all getting together. Oh, tripod. Better take that one. I'm getting ready. I'm getting all my little ducks in a line, so to speak, packing my bags, getting ready to fly down to Melbourne for the Australian Skeptics National Convention. Now, I'm not sure what that means for the Skeptic Zone. I'm going to endeavour to have the show out on time, or at least within a window of time down there in Melbourne during the convention. Always a bit of a challenge. But why not? I'll aim for that. But if the Skeptic Zone is a day late next week, you'll probably understand. I'll be quite busy at the convention, which is a good thing. Which is a very good thing. If you come to the convention, please come up and say hi to me, hi to Maynard and other members of the Skeptic Zone who will be there. Ran Segev, Dr. Raichi, Joe Benamu, they'll all be there. Come up and say hi. That would be really great. Until then, until my first report and Maynard's report from the Australian Skeptics National Convention with James Randi and lots of other people, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.